So now we're getting ready to do the treatment. The difference between this and other electrical treatments is that normally when a therapist is working in this situation, they're going to turn up the electrical current, or Ron would give a sense of discomfort on his face, or there'd be a hard contraction, and then they turn the power down and just have him sit there. You'll notice that what I said in my dream, everybody was moving. Well, here he's going to be moving while getting electrically stimulated, and that is the key to what we do. Without movement, you can't break a pattern. So we're going to turn the power up. He's going to give us an indication of sensation being uncomfortable. We'll see it on his face here pretty quick. And watch his hand down here. When we get to a certain level, his brain is going to say, up, I need to protect, and his hand's going to drop down into that slot. So I'm making all my notes here and giving him the instructions of what I want him to do, and I want him to move the golf club kind of like a teeter-totter.
And you're talking about the actual...
Where he feels the current. He feels it all the way down to his fingertips.
Right, on his right side.
Right.
Because he's been using that.
Correct. And so we're explaining here that if the left side is hurt, you're going to shift to the right side. If the right side is hurt, you're going to shift to the left side. So we know that the opposite side is overworked and this side is underworked. So now we're going to turn up the power and we're going to watch and see how he reacts. And this tells us what muscles he's able to relax or what muscles he's not able to relax. And we're going to see very quickly as we turn this up that he passed our first test. Now the second test is coming in active current. And watch his hand here, and you'll see it start to move and start to bend down, and you'll see his face start to go into a position of, hey, this is not comfortable. And then his brain is saying, I can't move. So what we're going to have him do is move. And only with that movement can you break that pattern that he's got. See how his arm pulled away from his side? How his head shifted over here as this arm dropped down? All of those are compensation patterns. Now he's at a point where he cannot relax. So now I'm going to have him move. Now the first intensity, notice how little he's moving on the left, and I'm going to tell him to get deeper on the left. So he gets deeper on the left. Now he's going to get deeper over here, and he'll get deeper over here. So now we're pretty much equal, and notice how his hand came back to neutral position and how his arm came into his side again. Now I make a note of that, so I know that pattern's broke at that intensity level. Now we turn the intensity level up, and what happens? Arm goes out away from the side, elbow goes in, and wrist goes like this. When we get to the fourth repetition, all of that will be gone. So again, it's just a constant communication to the muscle. A stimulus, correct movement. Stimulus, correct movement. Stimulus, correct movement. As opposed to stimulus and just sitting there. Just sitting there is going to do absolutely nothing. So now he's in neutral position again, much higher than he was before. Now we turn the power up again. He goes out of neutral position the second he gives us that state of discomfort on his face. And now we have him move again. Notice his arm is away from his side. Now when we get to repetition number 4, we're going to see his arm come right back in. And on the 5th one, he's in neutral position again. So I would say to him, now see how that shoulder dipped down? So we're to the point now where he's not really able to resist the contractions going on the opposite muscle. So what I mean by that is if I'm stimulating here, he cannot relax back here. So we're already to that point.
But look how much further he's going.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing how much...
Yeah, his range of motion is much greater. Where we'll really see it is when we turn the current off. And I think we're coming up to that. Yep. And now what we're going to do is we're going to test his range of motion now. And that's a very abbreviated treatment. So now we're going to raise his arm. And remember where it was before, it was right about his ear. Now we'll probably be about 2 to 3 inches behind his head. So we're about that far behind his head.
Right. At least 6 inches.
And again, where normally he would feel a tug back here, he's feeling nothing. He just feels it right there on the top of the acromion. And now I think we're going to ask him to raise his arm and see if he can do it on his own. And by using it correctly. Now we're talking about his golf swing right now. So as he is able to move that arm back, he doesn't feel anything. Mm-hmm. Which means his golf swing is now much wider, and with a wider golf swing, he's going to have a greater chance of hitting the ball further. And he feels nothing.
So he's pain-free now.
He's pain-free. So now I'm going to push his arm back, keep pushing it back, keep pushing it back, keep pushing it back, keep pushing it back, and no pain.
Mm-hmm. And he's shaking his head no.
Right.
And much to his amazement as well.
Right, but it's very important for him to see that because we only see what we know. We don't see what we don't know. So you have to draw his attention to the fact that he's like 50% further back. Otherwise, in his mind, no change. No, I used to, there's no change. So it's such a mental aspect of this also. And pain is such an insidious thing because it stops us from doing what we want to do. And for the listeners out there, any type of injury whatsoever that falls into the category of soft tissue or post-surgery, I mean, we can dramatically speed up the recovery by doing these techniques right here. So now we're going a different direction. We went to the inside to the outside. Now we're going the outside to the inside. And we want to know which of those spots is the greatest amount of inflammation. And we know automatically because the greater the number he starts at. So let's say he started at 15 on the power curve, and it was on when we were going black to red, and he starts at 21 on the red. Well, the lower you start at, the more inflammation, the higher you start at, the less inflammation. So now we're going to have him replicate, again, the same thing we did on what we call normal polarity, which means that the electricity is coming from the black pad to the red pad. Now we're on reverse polarity, where the electricity is coming from the inside out, outside in. And so now we're going to ask him, what level of discomfort are you at? Not pain, but what level of intensity are you at? He's giving us a number. We're looking for 10, and we'll bring him to 10, and then with a few movements of 5 movements, he drops from a 10 down to about a 4 or a 5. And we keep raising that threshold until we either get him to 10 on the machine, which is the maximum tolerance he can handle on the machine, or where he doesn't want to go up any further. Then we're done, because he's tired at that point.
Right.
And this is incredibly fatiguing.
We have 2 minutes.
So now what we're doing is we're looking to see, is he in balance? In other words, is this shoulder the same height as this shoulder? And notice that he's fatigued, so this shoulder is down. So we know right away it's very close to terminating the treatment because he's not strong enough at this point with those new muscles. I mean, can you imagine taking a baby as an example and having them start to strength train? Well, obviously they're not going to be able to lift as much weight as an adult.
Right.
Well, the same thing here. These muscles are like brand new. They're baby muscles right now because they haven't been working correctly. Now, they have a memory, which means that they'll come back very, very quickly. So right now he's exhibiting fatigue.
Yeah. And it's quite a workout, that's for sure.
It is a tremendous workout. When you work out with weights or do any kind of resistance training, you're physiologically capable of contracting the muscle at 2 times a second. Here, we're contracting or sending a neurological message to contract those muscles 500 times a second.